The Will of D ties together like 90% of the most broken and influential characters in One Piece. Roger, Rox, Luffy, all these characters from across time in the world of One Piece united under a single family banner. Right, that's actually a pretty cool idea. Like, what would actually happen if the Will of D wasn't just a mysterious clan dating back to the Void Century, but the literal backbone of a real pirate crew? Would the world government let them just sail peacefully? Could they even all get along? And most importantly, maybe, could this crew of insanely powerful leader figures who don't like to follow orders at all actually somehow manage to find the One Piece? And so I'd say let's start right away with the most important position on the crew, the captain of the D Pirates. And I would probably argue that there are 3 perfect choices here, and to pick the correct one, we need to quickly jump back to the past. Okay, here we are, 58 years before the start of the series. A 17-year-old Goldie Roger stands boldly in the center of Loketown, staring down his best friend and arch rival, a fierce man with the mind of a maniac. He's broad-shouldered with flowing dreadlocks and a crooked smile. He's a man whose willpower and dreams can only be matched by Roger himself. His name is, of course, Rox D. Xebec, and what he wants is to reveal the truth of this world, but he can't do it alone. He's rough around the edges, very aggressive and short-tempered, so he needs someone to anchor him, to inspire everyone and to rally them to a shared cause. Discovery, adventure, and liberation. And thus these two make a pact to sail the seas together and take the world by storm. Roger and Rox together sneak into a shipyard, finding a small ship that could comfortably house a roughly 10-man crew. They paint it up nicely and push it out into the ocean, screaming and laughing at the shipyard workers as they set sail onto the high seas with nothing but swords and a bit of booze in their hands, passion in their hearts, and wonder in their eyes. The co-captains of the aptly named ship, the Delightful Dreamer, obviously named after the infamous fan theory that the Will of D stands for the Will of Dreamers. Huh? What? Co-captains? Best friends? Like, what is this nonsense? Well, this is a what if, so let's have a bit of fun here, because you know that if Roger was the main character, some narrative structure would have to be maneuvered around, so Rox was his first and greatest rival, according to Sengoku at least in chapter 957. It's just that this time around, he's more like, I guess, Killua or Sasuke or Seto Kaiba, like pick your reference. A dynamic duo with rivalry as the backbone. This is the ideal way, I think, for all of the D clan to join one single crew. Plus, we do know that the Rox crew was already quite dysfunctional, whereas Roger's crew was quite passionate and completely rallied behind him. And so I'd like to think that by having them both at the helm, they'll be able to inspire and push a variety of strong characters to their peaks as well. I mean, all you Cobra Kai fans get it. It's the classic rivals to lovers, I mean brothers type of arc. Anyways, the two co-captains set out to uncover the secret behind the Will of D. Xebec tells Roger that to do that, they'll need to form a powerful and also highly talented crew, and that it would be the best that they find members of the D clan, of course. Now, neither of them still know why, but Rox does seem to have some elaborate knowledge about a period of time in the past where members of this mysterious clan were systematically targeted and executed by the government. And it's that exact reason why they're today all spread out across the different oceans of the One Piece world. And so they now make their way towards the largest kingdom nearby in the East Blue, which is the Goa Kingdom. And to begin with, they just stop here for the pirate essentials: equipment, food, gunpowder, and most importantly, more booze. And while Roger heads into town to get the gear, Rox takes it upon himself to head to the bar and stock up on, you know, the good stuff. And here he actually runs into a rowdy drunk man threatening everyone. He ignores him and then starts drinking himself. But turns out that this man is a real menace, and he doesn't take kindly to strangers with a rough look and a devilish grin. But Rox, well, he's always down for a fight, of course. So the two square up and without any hesitation, lay down down the mightiest headbutts the world has ever seen. The floor itself cracks apart as these two proud men stand tall, landing blow after blow into each other's faces. This brawl goes on for hours and the bar is just completely laid into ruins. Some point Roger walks in and, well, he of course just laughs. The poor man's girlfriend is now crying in the corner and he offers her a hand, bringing him home. She agrees, and so Roger grabs the two by the collar and drags them out of the bar to the girl's place. A little while later, they both wake up glaring at each other and Roger introduces them. "My name is Goldie Roger and this is Rox. Rox the Xebec." Rox just waves and rolls his eyes a little bit. The other man says, yeah. "My name is Garp. Monkey D. Garp." As soon as he says this, the other two's eyes go wide as they suddenly realize what could happen. And so they spend the next 2 hours convincing this mysterious man and his girlfriend to join their crew, saying that they have been looking for people with the D initial in their name as they are destined for greatness. And so after a night of very heavy drinking, a lot of eating and laughing, the two convince the pair to join them on their journey, officially adopting Monkey D. Garp as their first mate. Hey, nobody ever said that Garp's dream was to be a Marine, and he actually joined the Marines 56 years ago, 2 years after the start of our story. He's passionate, strong-willed, and fights for what's right. I'm certain that if he had found a pair of pirates at the right age, a good group with the light of adventure shining bright in their eyes, I doubt it would take all too much convincing to get him to join their side. After all, have you seen this image of Garp in his youth riding that tiger? As for his nameless girlfriend, well, there is a very specific reason why she will be important as well. And so after all this internal initial conflict, they set sail towards the Grand Line, and after a year of sailing together, Garp and his partner are excited to announce that they are having a baby. And as they make their way down towards the Grand Line, as they slowly sail through the calm belt, that's right, these insane lads are just straight up using their incredible willpower and physical stamina to just row their massive ship through the calm belt and straight into the Grand Line. Well, at that point, their new cabin boy is born, named after the most powerful creature in this world. The little boy is one Monkey D. Dragon. Now, here's the problem. Without a proper navigator, these idiots here have absolutely no idea where they're going and what they're doing. And so through sheer willpower, strength, and also stupidity, they sail right across the Grand Line without hitting an island into the other side of the calm belt and then popping out the other end into the South Blue. Now, at this point, it has been 3 years and these three are in desperate need of a real navigator. Luckily, when they land on a small island called Batteria, they find just the right person. A very elegant woman with pale blonde hair and a kind but very stern smile. Her name is Portgas D. Rouge, and I think that Roger might be in love? The boys are dying seeing him try to fumble his way through recruiting her, and it was actually thanks to his poor attempt at flirting that they found out she was a member of the D clan as well. Now, it does seem at this point that Rouge has nothing really better to do, and Roger does seem like a fun enough man to follow for a while. Little does she know that this is the man that she'll one day marry and have a beautiful, darling boy with. And so she then gets them set up with a log post and properly navigates the delightful dreamer towards Reverse Mountain. And once they make it through the nightmarish waters and actually manage to end up in the real proper start of the Grand Line, the true adventure now begins. And soon after, they end up in a small bounty hunter town called Whiskey Peak. Hey, I mean, we do have to go through some of the more tame arcs as well. So the dreamers walk through the town confidently. I mean, at this point, nobody can stop them. Their fighting spirit is just too strong. Hell, they could probably take down this entire town all by themselves if they really wanted to. But as they get into the bar, they see a pair of two kind of weird looking men with giant green hair, shaped oddly like a pair of clovers. Yeah, of course it is, because this is a video about finding D clan members, and that includes all of them. Gotta catch all the Ds. Now, these two men are a little bit older and are getting harassed by some larger fishmen at the bar, and so the Dreamer boys step up to the plate. Garp just leaps in with a mighty galaxy haymaker, crushing one of them right away. Rock steps in from the other side with a devilish dropkick, while Roger steps in and holds his cutlass ace up to the neck of their leader. He twirls his mustache in delight as the fishmen rush out of the bar, and he turns to the older men asking them their names. But we, of course, already know them as Clue D. Clover and and his brother, two adventurers chasing the true history of the world. Now, Rox is of course completely pumped, geeking completely out over the Will of D and the final island, and backs the brothers to join the crew. And the two actually end up agreeing, officially becoming the archeologists of the Dreamer crew at this point. And then, suddenly, the world is shaking. So many powerful and important figures from history are suddenly joining together. Clover and Rouge, well, in true anime fashion, I do think we need a love interest and a weird old dude at the party as well. And suddenly, the core 5 of this crew have been formed. Now for Rouge, we actually don't know that much about her, but she must be talented and intriguing to have caught Roger's attention in the main timeline, right? And we also know how crucial and important Clover's brain and dreams are to the world at large as well, being connected to the likes of Dragon and Vegapunk. So suddenly, this crew carries not only the Will of D, but the Will of Ohara in its hands as well. Or, well, I guess boats don't have hands, so in its oars, in its cannons? I don't know, man. You figure it out. Now, thanks to Clover and his brother, which oddly rhymes, and some cross-referencing with Rox's notes, the crew finally realized they needed to pursue these giant, mysterious stone monoliths called the poneglyphs. Turns out they're kind of like a map, but also a history book at the same time, and also the giant stone monoliths from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, that's a joke that maybe 10% of you guys understood because your parents or yourself were sci-fi nerds, or you just have really good taste in movies. If that's the case, thumbs up for that. And that was basically the origin story of how a baby, an angry punching man, two girlfriends, and some old dudes, and an angry slashing man and loud fellow with a gorgeous mustache, the delightful dreamers, set off to change the entire world. But that's also a terrible thing because the Marines now have suddenly gotten word that this crew exists and that they need to be taken down. I even heard that they sent a giant threat after them, foreshadowing a crazy battle perhaps? And during their journeys, they travel all over the Grand Line. Over the next 10 years, they'd visit various islands questing to find these poneglyphs, eventually landing them in the desert nation of Alabasta. When they arrive here, Clover actually remarks that the kingdom itself has a very serious tie to the Void Century and a notorious D-clan member as well, but they don't know who. But the fact that the castle grounds of Arubana are one of the oldest places in all of the One Piece world, over 4,000 years old in fact, means a lot, predating even the kingdom of Alabasta itself by a little over 3,000 years. This island has been around for a long time. And if there is going to be any place on the Grand Line that should have a poneglyph, Arubana would be the one location. So the Dreamers decide to do the totally reasonable thing. They try to sneak into the castle, because nothing could ever go wrong with Garp, Rox, and Roger trying to be stealthy together, right? Well, that was actually Rouge's plan, using the rowdy boys who would get themselves into trouble to let her, Clover, and his brother instead sneak in to find the poneglyphs themselves. And that plan, as you could expect, works great. Until Roger generously faces off against Princess Titi, and yes, that is her name, and her little friend Cobra. These three square off, the guards swarm the crew, and it becomes an all-out battle in the palace. Also, something that I just realized is that Titi is Vivi's mom, right? And they all look the exact same. All the way back to Nefertari Lily, right? So how does Cobra also have the Will of D? Can you get that through marriage? Or is this like a classic inbreeding royal situation here? Let's not dwell on that question for all too long, I guess. Now, Roger is just playing with the kids, not necessarily realizing how terrifying it must be for them to have pirates raiding their kingdom at night. And eventually, Rox then announces why they are here, to find their poneglyph on a crazy bluff play. And right as the fighting was about to stop, the door to the palace was kicked down, a massive towering man strolling in through the door. A whole horde of Marines are flooding in behind him, circling the crew and the Prince of Alabasta. The giant then walks up to the princess, stroking his massive red beard with his tree trunk-like arms. "Princess Titi, my name is Commodore Sol. I've been chasing these dreaded pirates for over a year now, and I'm sorry I let them stand against one of the kingdoms. Please, let me take out the trash." And so of course he immediately begins to lay into the crew, matching fists with Garp. Roger crosses blades with Cobra as Rox flees deeper into the palace in order to find the poneglyph, eventually finding it alongside the rest of his crew. Now, this is the type of story that I'm talking about. Giant marines battling the man that should be a marine hero. Pirates and royalty battling it out in the palace, and an infamous scoundrel taking every chance he can get to accomplish his own goal. At this point in the timeline, Saul would be a marine, and what rank is kind of unclear, but Commodore sounds just fair enough to be based on the Marines' hierarchy and the timing of this interaction. So we're gonna go with that rank. And considering the ties to the clan, it's absolutely a sick turn of fate to have the one D-clan marine, except Garp of course, fight the pirate crew full of D-clan members. Now on the flip side, Cobra and Titi would also be children at this point, not a couple just yet, but eventually they will be the parents of a beautiful baby girl, Nefertari Vivi. Now we don't fully know their entire backstory or how they actually met, but I think a cute little princess and her guardian make perfect sense, no? But before these three characters can get recruited, they have to get defeated first. And so after a long drawn-out clash of pirates and marines, only Saul would really be left standing, beaten and bloodied. The others aren't dead, of course. I mean, this is a 4-kids show, am I right? They're just unconscious with lollipops and spilled juice everywhere. All kids. However, it is now time that Rouge, Rox, and Clover reveal that they found the hidden poneglyph in the palace and explain their goals to the princess and Saul. And the two of them take this time to reveal the letter D in both of their names, and then Saul reveals an evil plan that has been set into motion. You see, at this point, the Gorosei have figured out that the devils of the past are on the move searching for the true history. Saul just didn't realize the devils were people from his own clan. And so if he can't take the Dreamer crew in, they're going to order a Buster call and destroy the sandy island that Alabasta is on once and for all. But he of course can't let that happen, all the innocent people there, and he can't let the princess and this young man get caught up in a fight they weren't even a part of. And so it's during this moment though that Roger hears a voice calling to him, guiding him towards the poneglyph chamber. He can hear it. The stone relic is kind of calling and guiding him. And so he starts working with Clover and his younger brother to decipher the messages, learning about Pluton and the ancient weapons. Turns out their journey is so much bigger than they realize. They really need to escape, and they do need to do it fast. Otherwise, how else are we supposed to get to the absolutely soul-crushing ending of this what-if story? Also, quickly before we move on, I just wanted to quickly tell you a story. As you can see, I'm right now still traveling. I was at an anime convention in the US, and I met a really great fan, Melanie, who not only drew this really awesome Luffy art for me, which is absolutely fantastic, but she also gave me a Zoro that can now sit with my Luffy in the back of my video. So thanks so much, Melanie, you really made my day, and yeah, let's now get back to the video. So the crew now takes the young royals under their wing, and with a Commodore, Saul, they now make their way to the docks pretending to be prisoners. But then of course suddenly he helps them board their ship, destroys the docks, and hops on board. There's no way that he's gonna let the world government get away with all of this, and so Cobra, Titi, and Saul all now officially join the Dreamer crew. Saul as their shipwright, Cobra as cabin boy alongside a young dragon, and Titi helping Rouge navigate. Now for a couple of years after, they now sail together, roaming the seas. They come across rival pirate crews like Whitebeards and Shikis dueling on the seas. They discover a bunch of hidden islands, find more poneglyphs, and explore the entire Grand Line. Dragon, Cobra, and Titi start growing up into capable young pirates, with Dragon even managing to find a love interest of his own somewhere in the Grand Line. At some point, he even takes up the role as the helmsman, navigating the ship through perilous oceans alongside Titi. Meanwhile, Cobra started training with Rox and Roger to become a better sword fighter and learn political history from Saul and Clover as well. Turns out that one day he could very well be the most important figure in history, carrying the legends of the Dreamers into the next generation. Now at this point, you can really tell that things are getting wild as they start visiting Zoe and meet the giant elephant, Zunisha. The elephant remarks that the two, Roger and Rox, do remind him of someone from his past. Of course, Rox does not hear this, but Roger does, and the immense pressure of Zunisha in his mind totally freaks him out. And so does that whale tree. Like, what's its deal? But it's actually here that they find their first road poneglyph and uncover the story of Joy Boy. He might actually be the answer to all of their questions, and now they just have to find his map. It's also around that very same time that Roger, our shining beacon of hope, realizes that something is off. He's a little bit less focused. He's just a little bit less focused when fighting. He's slightly out of breath at times that he shouldn't be, and he thinks it's time that the crew puts slightly more effort into finding a doctor. However, he doesn't really share any of this information with anyone in his crew. He just keeps a big smile on his face for now. And so kind of instead of prioritizing to find a doctor, they instead go up to the Sky Islands, finding yet another poneglyph. However, this one wasn't a road map, and so they dive deep into the sea, meeting the fisherman and King Neptune. After meeting him, they congratulate him on a kid he didn't even know he was having yet, and while finding more and more of the poneglyphs to guide them toward their end goal, there is still one more little punk that they have to pick up before they can actually make it to the infamous Laugh Tale. Because when they come across Whitebeard battling his crew for 3 days and 3 nights, they saw this little freaky kid. He just kind of kept staring at everyone, eating cherry pies and grinning like a little sociopath, but for some reason, he seemed to stand out to Xebec. They got talking a little bit, and he slowly uncovered the fact that he was actually a D-clan member as well. And so before they can make their way to claim the final road poneglyphs, they have to get this brat on board as well. Now, it seems wrong to not have him on their crew, right? And so they fight Whitebeard for the right to take Marshal D. Teach off his hands. Now, of course, Whitebeard doesn't really want to give his kid away, but after seeing the Dreamer crew in action and hearing their goal, a young Blackbeard knows that he needs to be with these guys. They are everything that he's ever wanted and everything he needs. And so now, with yet another new cabin boy, the Dreamers set off on their journey to find the remaining road poneglyphs. But unfortunately, with crazy marine pressure chasing after them, it's gonna take a little while to get there. But to be honest, at this point in the story where we are, they actually still got time. They make their way all around the seas all over again, helping out islands in need, searching for information, and shaking the Marines off their tail whenever they can. And it's actually once they make it to the North Blue again that they find someone who they did not expect. A little kid in a weird hat. He kind of seems anxious, stressed, and most importantly, fearing for his own life. All I know is that he's got a really cool devil fruit power, something this crew is seriously lacking at this point, and so they do take him under their wing just to help him get out of Dodge. But it's not until a while later that they finally uncover his full name, which just happens to be Trafalgar D. Water Law. And after hearing what this kid actually went through, this powerhouse team decided they have to cut down Doflamingo next. And so honestly, it's not even funny kind of how quickly they do that. He's like, what, 20? And these dudes are all like prime Yonko level pirates with master class hockey. Like, no shot that he stands any chance at all. And after what he did to our young Law here, he is pretty much screwed. The D crew here is kind of like a massive pair of hockey scissors, and they absolutely cut the puppet man strings down. Roger actually also totally lucks out that Law is training to be a doctor because his health is still steadily declining, and hopefully this kid might have an answer before he croaks too early. In the meantime, after a few years, Roger ends up finally getting together with Rouge, which was a thing that has been going on in the story for a long while. We're not gonna get into it, and they basically end up having a darling little boy. Now, Roger, not very great at naming things apparently, decides to name him after the thing that means the most to him in the world, his sword. Meaning, welcome to the world, Baby Ace. And actually, all this baby fever absolutely gets to Cobra and Dragon as well, who both start preparations to have families of their own, if you catch my drift. And so from here on out, they keep sailing, and eventually, after years and years of trying, they find the final road poneglyph, but getting it won't be easy as a very fierce pirate has claimed it for herself. Her name is Charlotte Linlin, otherwise known as Big Mom, and as long as they can defeat her and get access to that poneglyph, it's basically gonna be smooth sailing all the way to the final island. And so in an epic battle, they duke it out on her home turf, taking down huge waves of her children and soul-possessed homies, and once this beastly monster trio unleashes their combo attack, the Divine Galaxy Saber, Big Mom mom is gonna be absolute toast. And her poneglyph is just kind of like a bright red cherry on top of a victory sundae. However, during this battle, Roger does take a mighty blow, something that he's normally able to shake off, but due to his continuously declining health, it knocks him out of commission way longer than anyone expected. However, with this achievement, the squad has finally done it. They've gathered all the poneglyphs, but Roger has some explaining to do. Like, why has he been so bedridden? The Law is getting better at medicine at this point. He should have been able to treat his wounds, but unfortunately, the cats are out of the bag now. Roger tells his crew, his family, that he's not really in good shape right now. He doesn't have a time left, he thinks, but he can make it to the final island still. With their help, he can accomplish the goal he and his best friend set out chasing so many years ago, even if they have to carry him over the finish line. And so as they approach Lodestar Island with the location of Laughtale, the crew now has a really heavy choice to make. Dragon and Cobra are about to have kids, and they don't know how long the journey will be. Ace is still young, and this stretch of unknown could be very unsafe for a child as well. And so at that point, it's decided that Rouge, Dragon, Law, Titi, and Cobra are all gonna stay behind on the penultimate island of the Grand Line, while Garp, Xebec, Teach, and Saul carry Roger to the end game, where they will eventually find the hidden treasure, the one piece that Joy Boy has left there. And so as the crew sails the delightful dreamer into the ocean, eventually landing on the shores of a mysterious island, or so I assume it will go. I still don't know exactly what happens when you get to Laughtale, I guess. Could be underwater or on the moon for all I know, but I mean, regardless, this crew makes landfall somewhere and is astonished by what they see. The sight itself is comical, full of tragic irony. Roger himself can't help but let out a final painful laugh. Coughing up blood with a massive smile on his face, he mutters, "What are the odds, Xebec? We were just a little bit too early, huh? I guess you'll have to take care of the journey from here on out. Wealth, fame, and power, it can all be yours. I trust you'll make the right choice, my dear brother." And it's right there that Roger lays his head to rest, dying in the arms of his best friend and rival, Rox D. Xebec. Honestly, I can't really think of a better place to culminate this version of Roger's story than on Laughtale. I mean, he lived to be around the same age, but this time he actually laid all of the groundwork for a family for the right reasons this time. Ace wouldn't be born to become his successor and the next Joy Boy, just his loving son. It kind of always rubbed me wrong personally that Roger had a kid just to accomplish some grand mission or greater goal or complete his own journey. I mean, Roger himself had a perfect ending right there on Laughtale, but the regular story obviously needed him to leave the islands, because without that, he could never inspire a golden age of piracy. However, in our version of the story, he doesn't even have to do that. Garp and Saul begin to let out a loud cry, screaming and laughing, saddened by what they get to see. They're good friends. Their captain made it to the end of his journey, but Xebec, no, he is boiling. His blood is enraged. This cannot be true. This cannot be the end. What kind of sick joke is the world playing on him? How dare they do this to him? Teach also looks up with his cold, dead eyes. It's the exact look Xebec needs to rally. He preaches to his crewmates about how they can take down the entire world government. They have been hunting them down, fighting against them, and clearly were responsible for the genocide of the entire D-clan. This crew could use the ancient weapons to lay waste to the entire Holy Land. They can create a golden age of piracy. With their power and status now, nobody could stop them. This doesn't have to be it. This doesn't have to be the end. But of course, Garp and Saul are really good-willed people. Saul was a Marine. He knows that they aren't all bad, and Garp realizes what Xebec is getting at and rolls up his sleeves. He cannot and will not let his captain throw everything they have accomplished away. He will not allow to dishonor the legacy of Roger by laying waste to the world he loved exploring so much. And so it's right here that they come to a standstill. Jaguar and Monkey against Rox and Teach. A four-way fight on Laughtale for the fate of the world. The bloodbath starts and it is brutal. Swords, claws, and fists clash as the battlefield is painted red or blue, depending on if this is the 4Kids edit that we talked about earlier. Galaxy impacts and divides are being thrown out left and right, while Rox fiercely tanks blow after blow, consumed by rage and disgust. Saul and Blackbeard scrap, and while Saul has the clear upper hand here, he underestimated the young Teach at the same time, receiving a massive slash across his face before inevitably knocking the young pirate out. Meanwhile, Rox and Garp then battle it out until neither of them can stand anymore. They fall onto the ground unconscious, inches away from death. When Garp awakens again, he's back on Lodestar Island alongside his family and Saul, whose new wounds are only now beginning to heal days later. Only those two know the truth, and Saul hasn't told anything yet. But then they quickly share what happened, and everyone shares in their pain and sadness. Unfortunately, it's his job to raise Ace now alongside Luffy, two children who will one day have to finish what he started, taking down the strongest pirate in the world, Rox D. Xebec. And let me tell you guys, this story was a real blast to work through and navigate. Please let me know if you enjoy this more narrative-focused direction for what if content. And if you do, you should absolutely also check out this video right here on what if the monster trio were actually Marines, because the twists and turns there are insane as well, and the ending might just be the wildest of it all. We're talking about a full-on war, and nobody seems to be fighting for the right side. Otherwise, as always, I want to thank all the new Patreon members we have. If you want to support the channel and get access to some really cool perks and bonus content, well, you can do that on Patreon, and the first couple of people who will sign up will also get this very unique devil fruit icon next to their name in the videos as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.